Welcome back to Coffee and Courage. I'm Amber.
And I'm Parker.
Today we're talking about all the things nobody tells you when you become a medical parent.
Not medical stuff. We're going to leave that up to your doctors and care teams to discuss with you.
We're going to be talking about emotional, relational, time, and some things in between that can hit you like a freight train when you least expect it. What do you think are the things that nobody tells you about medical parenting, Joy?
Um,
Yeah.
Nobody tells you that finding services and programs that'll help you is hard.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you that. They hand you this list. The social worker in the NICU just handed me a list of numbers to call. She's like, "Here, this might be helpful." And I'm like, "But where do you start?" It just had like 100 lists and 100 names on the list. And where do you start? Where you begin? And you're sitting there and you're overwhelmed already, and you're like, I don't want to sit here and make 100 phone calls to try to see who can help me. And I don't even really know what I need
Mm-hmm.
help with right now,
Yeah.
because you don't really know. You're just kind of sitting in the NICU trying to just day by day. You don't even know how long you're going to be in the NICU. um so trying to plan for what happens after you get discharged is not even a reality yet, until they're like, okay, we think he's ready to go. And then you're like, oh no. This is where the rubber meets the road, and you're like, oh, what do I do now?
Totally. I remember being
Yeah.
terrified, but also so excited when we
Right.
when we got to bring Koa home from he was in a long-term acute
Mm-hmm.
facility.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you've got families that are in different states, that becomes really tricky, I think, too. It's a very,
Yeah.
very good point because some families are
Well,
traveling other states to get that fair care
yeah,
because
Right.
I was
hospitals
going to
aren't.
say just being in a different state in the hospital and then having to move back, um, it's like half the phone calls you make, you get the same response where, oh, he can't be an established patient until he's physically in, Nevada or wherever it is that people are from. Um,
Right.
and I was going to say one thing, even after, I think just a month or two ago, we get the same list over and over again from people like physical therapy offices or occupational therapy. They're like, oh, here's a list of services, and it's like, okay, well, this person doesn't is on a wait list. This guy
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do pediatrics. This one isn't familiar with this condition or that condition. So yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge
trying
thing.
to trying to weed everybody out
Yeah.
and get to the ones who will help you. And I call them my teammates, because it's a team. And I know if, within about 5 minutes or less of talking to a certain provider, whether they're going to be my teammate or not, or whether I've got to move along and find another one just by their attitude, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an important thing to bring up is just that whole screening for bias,
Yep.
right? Like that
Yep.
we totally did that pre-surgery and just with any medical team. Co was playing peekaboo with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are some things that you do notice, Joy, for yourself like when you say attitude, what are some things that you're picking up on? I mean, trusting your mama intuition is huge, right? Number one, and
Yeah.
the dad intuition. But
Yeah.
what are some things that you might pick up on, or maybe even questions that you ask the providers to screen for that bias?
Um, well, if they start talking statistics with me, I'm like, no, because our kids they don't fit into any kind of statistic. And the statistics that they try to use are very dated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so when they start trying to pigeonhole my kid with their statistics, I'm like, oh, next, you know. Or if the provider doesn't engage with Ben at all, like he only just talks to me and
Mhm.
doesn't even acknowledge Ben. I'm done. I don't want to talk to you. I don't, you're not on our team. You're not on our team, you
Yeah,
know.
That's yeah,
those are
two good
excellent
points.
points for sure. Parker, what do you do as a dad? How are you screening the providers for?
I think a big thing, like when we have someone new, say a new physical therapist come over or something like that, how comfortable are they with Koa, and how accommodating are they to his equipment like the ventilator, or if we have to pause mid exercise for suction or something like that, how do they react to that, and how comfortable do they seem dealing with the extra equipment? I think is what because me, I kind of like to stand back and observe things,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's some of the things that I look for is just like how comfortable are they dealing with a medically complex kid.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
and I
and
go
we've
ahead,
had
Joy.
we've had several that because of their age, they expect a lot from them. And, like at 2 or 3 years old, I had a physical therapist come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to have Ben walking by the end of the year." And I'm
Interesting.
That'd
like,
be great.
yeah, but so what his method was to pick him up under the arms and just try to get him to, put his feet up under him. And I'm like, this is not how this is going to work. He
Yeah.
doesn't have the muscle tone to support himself. So right then I'm like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. And it's hard when they think they know what they're doing. They think that they know what's best for your kid, and because you're just the parent and you don't have any degrees in physical therapy or ortho or anything, that they think that they know best.
Yeah.
And and I could see the pain on Ben's face as soon as he picked him up under the arms, and I'm just like, nope, we're not doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like that too, exactly like what Parker said. Are they comfortable with your kid and all their equipment, but also are they willing to say, no, this kid is very delayed, and so we're going to have to treat him like he's starting from the beginning. Like he doesn't even roll over yet, he doesn't crawl yet, he doesn't scoot, he doesn't sit on his own. We have to start
Mm-hmm.
doing with the basics, not like, oh, this kid's 4 years old, he should be walking, or he should be toilet training, or he should be, eating by mouth, or, these things that they just don't do, or they don't care to do, they don't want to do. Ben doesn't have any desire to move around. He's happy. I call him my little starfish because he's just happy being right there.
Hmm.
He, he doesn't have the desire to move. So trying to make him move is not a feasible thing for him. And I don't like it when people do that to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when we finally did get nursing for the first time after we had to move out here to Reno
Mhm.
so that we could get nursing. Um, but that wasn't the only reason. Anyway, the thing that I told the nurse was, I want you to just spend time with him. I want you to allow your motherly instincts to kick in, because my biggest thing is like those subtle cues that
Yes.
Koa has, and Ben has them too, I'm sure, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
that, and they're not typical. Koa's got a very, very high pain threshold.
Yes. Ben does too.
So, yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, you got to be able to pick up on those subtle cues that he's presenting, so you know if he's uncomfortable or not.
Hmm.
Yep.
And we did have a nurse who wasn't really able to do that, wasn't able to pick up on those subtle cues. And it was really, really hard on, I think, both of us, but mostly on me to like
Mm,
try and go and do errands, or like we wouldn't leave very
yeah.
far from the house because I could sense that there was not
Yeah.
this connection. That this particular person was consistently on their computer, not like in, like you said, Joy, engaging
Hmm.
really with him. we've been pretty, I think we've been pretty lucky. And although, and I wonder if this is because we came into the game so much later, right? So you've really been through the ringer, Joy, I think, with some of the providers. Not that we haven't as well, or other families haven't, but I mean, gosh, you started this what, like
9 years ago.
9 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
when that bias was really, really, really deep rooted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that is one of my next points that I have in there, is that once you are home, and if your child is eligible for in-home nursing, um, no one tells you that you're going to have to train your nursing team.
Right.
Like, I think
Yeah.
you're like, oh, we're going to have RNs in our home. That's going to be great. And then they get there and they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I've never done a trach change, or I'm not familiar with a ventilator. And
Yep.
it goes beyond what Amber was talking about with your child's cues and understanding his body language. It's, okay, well, he's on atropine, and so atropine will make him flushed. And so don't get alarmed, when he turns red 10 minutes after you get it. It's just this
Mm-hmm.
particular drug. Or,
Mm-hmm.
elevated heart rates. It's not like you're training someone how to be a nurse. You just have to train your nurse on your particular kid, because they're all so
Right.
different.
Right. Well, and it's also hard when the nurse is only there maybe 1 or 2 days a week,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yes,
then
I
there's,
hate
Yeah, that's
that.
a
yeah,
big
That's my
problem. Yeah.
biggest, like,
It's like
and then
every
there's
day
fear.
the
is their
whole
first
big
day.
gap.
Yeah.
Then there's a big gap before they come back. So
Yes.
and they've worked with other patients probably in the meantime. So they've lost what you've taught them. So they come back and then you have to reteach them, or make sure that they're comfortable again before you can disengage. And, yeah, there's a lot of anxiety with leaving your child with somebody that you barely know.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I usually do, and you guys probably do this too, is when you get a new nurse, um, the first day she shadows me. She
That's a good
doesn't do
idea.
any
Yeah.
hands-on. She
Mhm.
shadows me. The second day, we work side by side, and I assist her. And then the third day, I shadow her, and I just am like the fly on the wall. And then, you know, the fourth day, then I'm out of the room. I'm in the house. I'm working in the house, but I'm still within earshot if she needs me, or he. And then, by the fifth day, but this is like if I've got a nurse that's there for, 5 consecutive days, then I can get them trained up in a whole week.
Mm.
But if they're only there 2 days a week, man, it's going to take a long time before I'm feeling really comfortable enough to even go take a shower,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, um, yeah. And then in this past year, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many nurses have come and gone, but
Mm.
you spend all that time training them and it's exhausting. And then you lose them, and then another nurse comes in, and then you have to start over from scratch. And it's like, you know, I've started making videos for
Oh, that's
them,
such
and
a good idea.
Yeah, that
yeah,
is a good idea.
and then I just airdrop it to them if they have an iPhone, and I'm like, okay, just when in doubt, just watch this video, because I'm like, you need to be independent. And I tell them all, I'm like, you have to learn how to do a trach change by yourself, because there are times when you're going to be alone, and if he becomes decannulated, you're going to have to put that sucker back in by yourself, because I'm not
Hmm.
always going to be here, and I urge them to be able to do trach care by themselves,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to always be there. I don't want to be there. I want to be able to
Mm-mm.
disengage. That is the purpose.
We needed that
Oh, yeah.
break so much
Yeah.
for our mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And I've
especially,
had nurses that weren't comfortable with me leaving,
yeah.
you
And
know?
I can't say it enough. Like, that's, it's like you have two kids. When you have a nurse that isn't comfortable, it makes it makes your day as a parent harder.
Yeah.
because now you can't go anywhere, so you
Right.
can't get any errands done.
Right.
Uh, and yeah, it just makes it so much more difficult.
And yeah, and then they're who's getting paid for that? They are.
Right.
And yet, and that's very, very frustrating.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
Yeah.
there's definitely like benefits to the private duty nursing, but Parker and I are to the point where we're like, if we can't get somebody consistent,
yeah,
Yeah.
it creates more work.
it's
It really
more
does.
stress for us,
Yeah.
more
It is.
stress.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah. And the turnover rate is pretty
It's
high.
really high. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's nursing in general has a high turnover rate, but especially home
Yeah.
health.
Yeah, it brings me
Yeah.
to my point. I think
Yep.
this folds in nicely. One of the points I think that is super
Yes,
important,
sir.
and folks, including myself, tended to really bury their heads in the sand, is politics, right? Like, and there's so many groups that we're part of that are like, nobody talk politics. And the reality of the matter is that we as medical parents have got to be up on what's going on within the political realm, because it's impacting the care that our kids are going to receive, and now potentially even nursing, right? There's this
Right.
whole slew of things that are going on. And while it can add more anxiety, I think, tracking the politics, it also can help us be more prepared. I don't know.
Right.
What do you guys think about it? Because it's a hot topic, right? And
Yeah,
folks feel really hands off, and they feel scared.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to piss anybody off talking politics. But man, it's like, I really feel like it's so necessary for folks to at least pay attention to a variety of resources. What say you guys?
I think so. I think
Well,
that it's important that at a minimum, people who are Medicaid recipients, whether it's due to whatever circumstance it is, that at least they stay informed with what their state is doing.
I don't really see much help for our little kids who are disabled, and or the parents that are we're basically taking care of newborns for the rest of their lives. That's
Mhm.
kind of what it
Hmm.
is. And um just how taxing that is. But so, you know, to be able to talk about the politics of our medical system without involving political things, without getting
Yeah,
off on tangents. I mean,
their
we need to
personal
attack,
beliefs.
right. We need to attack the issues, not the not the people in charge, or whatever. We need to just be like, okay, this is an issue with Medicaid. We need to figure this one out. We need to, try to rewrite this bill and present it in a way that we can get it changed.
And I love that idea that you said, because, you know, as a family therapist, when you've got clients that are a family or a couple or whatever the dyad is in front of you, that's what that's what I often say is, we need to fight the problem, not each other. It's so important for us to at least know,
Yeah.
what our coverage says, what these bills are saying that are going to impact our kids and our care,
Hmm.
from the primary resources, not like the secondary filtered through the news stations, and what I mean by primary resources are like the actual bills themselves.
Right.
We'll knock out some of these, I think, a little bit rapid fire because they're kind of similar. But back to the nursing thing, just in general, something that I had a problem with was having strangers in your house like
Oh yeah,
constantly.
so many
Just
strangers.
people coming and going, and like Joy was saying, that the turnover rate with nursing, and then trainers and therapists coming over.
It was really hard to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I actually refused nursing when we first got Ben home. Um, and just because I didn't like the thought of somebody else taking care of my kid,
Hmm.
and he was so fragile, and he was so new to home, and I wanted to get things figured out at home. But Robin with Maxim, she came over, and she's just like, um, when's the last time you had a shower? I'm like, huh. I didn't think about it. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
like
if you have to think about it, it's the wrong
last
answer.
week or something. And she's like, well, why don't you go take a shower? I'll sit with Ben. I was like, really? So she said, yeah. So I ran and I took a shower really, really quick, in and out,
Oh,
super quick.
totally.
And then I come in and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And she's like, um, do you have to do any laundry? Do you have to go run an errand? And I'm like, yes, I do. I haven't probably been out of the house in a month or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
while she was there, it was really nice. And she's like, why don't you just try it? Why don't you just try it a couple days a week and see if you can get used to it? And so I did. And luckily we had a really good nurse that came in, and she was just really motherly with Ben, and she just really became part of our family. But yeah, it was really hard to adjust to that. Just letting go of that control,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
because you feel so overwhelmingly responsible for this person's life. And
Mm-hmm.
if I mess up in any way, shape, or form, and he's gonna die. You know, it's
Yes. Can we
it's
also talk about, can I piggyback off that?
sure.
Can I just be real here? Because that's part of this
Yeah.
is the real talk. Can we talk about the fear of CPS being called on us? Is it just me? Is it just me that experiences that?
I have not had that fear.
Oh my gosh. And I know where it comes
Why
from
Yeah.
for me.
why do
Like
you think?
it for me, it comes from reading these stories in some of these groups that we're a part of.
Hmm.
And like CPS being called on families for whatever reason. Another thing that I think that I don't even have on my list, but is something that shifts when you become a medical parent is the amount of time that you do spend on social media. Because I was like constantly on here trying to find solutions for Koa, in the NICU when he was denied heart surgery, and even now, just even like scouring through trying to see if there's other folks that have this skin type thing. Does Ben have that
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
really sensitive skin too?
Yep. Yep.
Man,
Yep.
but yeah, it just really I feel really anxious. So perhaps I'm the only one in the whole world that feels like that. But man, I just like it freaks me out. It really does. And then what would happen
Hmm.
if he
Right.
was taken? And I
Yeah.
don't know. I go down a rabbit hole and it's just not healthy, but
Oh,
it's real.
they'd have to do a lot,
It'd be it's a long process.
to
Yeah.
take him away. Yeah.
Yeah, but
The
even
thing,
so, who's got time for that? Another person to come over, another person
yeah.
to like check out the house or,
Yeah.
all the things that go down.
Do a million questionnaires.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I
Right.
think that's not a fear that I share.
Mm-mm. It's
Um,
just me.
yeah.
Yeah, the thing I fear is like these doctors thinking that I'm a crazy, like a Munchausen mom, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, that's a really good one that I haven't even thought about. Because I've
Yeah.
seen that in the groups too. Tell us more.
Um, so for instance, this Ben has to have the surgery on his back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A second surgery. So the first surgery was to install these growth rods to straighten his scoliosis, and it was successful, and he did fine, and until so he had the surgery in July, and then in November he was in pain,
Mm.
and I couldn't figure out where the pain was coming from. It took me a lot of troubleshooting just to even figure out that it was coming from his lower back. I really had to force the issue with him. And I messaged him again, and I'm like, this is not working for me. I don't want to just mask the pain. I want to get to the root of the cause. I know he's in pain. And so finally he scheduled him for a CT scan. So get him in, and all of this is taking,
Months.
you know,
Yeah.
the wheels of medicine move very slowly,
Oh, yes. Another thing
unfortunately.
nobody tells us.
Right.
Yes. Right.
So finally get him into the CT. And then I message him. I'm like, hey, did you see anything on the CT that might tell you why he's experiencing pain? And he's like, well, I need to see you guys again to go over the results. And then we had to go back into the office to get, face to face. And he shows me that yes, the one of the rods is just long enough that it's rubbing on his pelvis when he's in the sitting position. And so he needs to go back in and shorten the rod. And I'm like, I feel like we could have gotten here a lot quicker to this, decision to shorten the rod and not be like, oh, he's just got to grow out of it. I mean, like Ben grows very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He's 9, but he's only 43 inches long. He's about the size of a 3-year-old, maybe.
Right. Right.
And so how long would this take to grow out of it? So I'm just, sometimes you just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I think these doctors just get sick of us sometimes, they're like, oh, that crazy lady's calling again. Tell her that we're scheduled out for 2 months or whatever. When I'm like, no, this is really an emergency because I can't travel with him. He can't sit in his wheelchair.
Mm-mm,
He's
not
got
if
to
he's
lay
in that
flat.
pain.
No, and
Yeah.
we can't go
Oh.
back and forth to home. So that's why we're hanging out in Reno
Yeah.
Yep.
because we can't. I can't. That's not an option for him to sit in his chair for an hour. It's bad enough on him to sit in his chair to go to the hospital for an appointment.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that, and uh like when he had that innominate, the tracheoinnominate fistula where he bled out in the
Oh, that was
in the ER.
horrifying. I was so scared for you guys.
Yeah. And we
Yes.
had taken him early to the
Mm-hmm.
ER that day and they sent us home because
Mm.
he stopped bleeding. They sent us an hour away. And I think about that and I just get chills thinking that he could have bled out at any moment just because they were like, oh, there's nothing. What are you concerned
Mm-hmm.
about? We don't see anything, and I'm like, ah,
Yep.
Yeah,
it
Yep.
it
just,
is. It is so hard,
yeah,
and it's like I'm not. It's like you have to argue with the doctor
Oh,
sometimes,
right,
and I'm
yes.
not. I'm not here to say you don't know what you're talking about,
right.
but it's like these conditions that our children have are so unfamiliar. I
Yeah.
think that they're not taking into account everything that they should be in some instances. Like like what you said with Ben, like, there's a bigger problem. We need more examination. Like these are not typical responses. Um,
Yeah.
and
And they ask
like
you,
him
well,
to
how do
say,
you know he's in pain?
yeah,
I know my kid. Okay. I know my kid. I know what he looks like. I know what he does when he's in pain.
Yep.
He may not be crying right now, but I know that he's in pain.
Mm-hmm. Koa will laugh sometimes.
Yeah.
Koa will laugh.
Oh,
He'll
yeah.
laugh
Like
when something's a little painful. And I
I've
think that's really
twisted.
interesting. I think that goes into the whole like that whole advocacy piece, right? Like
Yep.
nobody tells you that the advocacy never stops. In fact,
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it gets worse, right? Like you
Right.
think because you can only process so much information at one time. I remember being in the NICU and just taking it day by day and like, you know, Koa was no longer a candidate for heart surgery and I'm like we're not leaving and it was just like this constant and we had this fear that if Koa looked worse than he was once he was a candidate for surgery again that, they would pull his candidacy
yeah, they
again
would use that to deny it.
against us to give him to not give him the surgery. So and at that point Parker wasn't there and I was constantly like fighting with them about like how much oxygen he was on or if he needed it, to the point that at one care conference the doctors actually did call me on it, which I appreciated, but at the same time I still haven't found like it to be persuading enough for me to calm down because I
Yeah,
am
to
very,
stop.
very direct. I am very direct with the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I have found, unfortunately, that being nice doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing, like, not that folks should like come at providers, they're already overwhelmed. super rude right away, but there comes a point where if you're not being listened to, that the professionalism and the niceness goes out the
Yeah.
window, because
Right.
sometimes that's the only way to get them, at least I've found, to hear you, to really hear what you're saying.
Right.
And with uh, one of the topics, I feel like we are at that point with his anesthesia
Oh
for
yeah. Mm-hmm.
procedures. It's like I reach out to the anesthesiologist that we have in Salt Lake City, and I'm like, "Hey, can you?" I use layman's terms, of course, because I'm not an anesthesiologist. I'm like, can you send me the recipe for the anesthesia that you use? Sometimes you just have to tell, and it goes for the home health nurses too.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to tell them what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like we ran into a situation when Benton had that innominate bleed when we got home and got him down in the, laying down again, it started bleeding again. Well, I'm just like, okay, I'm loading him up and I'm taking him to Reno, back to Reno. And the nurse that was on, she's like, I think we should call 911. And I'm like, no, we're not calling 911, not in Fallon. I
Yeah.
already know that they don't know what they're doing with a kid like this. I am not letting you call 911. I said, do not call them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm like, because she's like, got the phone and I'm like, do not.
Yeah.
And so she
Yeah.
didn't. And so we loaded him up and I brought him into Reno. And then she got in trouble for not calling 911 because that's the protocol.
Yeah.
And so
And
I'm like, shouldn't I be the word? If I say no, isn't that what I want? Isn't that the wishes of the parent? But no, it's not. They have their own protocol, and if they don't follow it, they get in trouble.
yeah.
And so what should have happened is, and this all takes time, and I don't have time.
We don't have
The clock
time.
is ticking, right?
That's right, girl.
So
That's
what
right.
should have happened is that in a perfect world, she would have called 911. They would have showed up, which the cops show up first, and then the EMTs show up, and then I have to refuse the services after, you got this football team rushing into your house, and then I got to send them all away and then load Ben up and then take him to Reno.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, so this is just for you guys and whoever is going to be listening, is that to bypass all of that, I got a letter from the pediatrician that says if in the event that Ben needs to be transported by ambulance, he does not go to Banner. The ambulance takes him straight to Renown,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise they would take him to Banner. They would mess around with him there until they decide, oh, we gotta care flight
Oh,
him
we
to
can't do
Reno.
Mm-hmm.
this. Yeah, because he's out
Right,
of our scope. Yeah,
right. And
And it's
they
just a
are.
huge waste of time.
Right. In these rurals, they are out of their scope. They don't know what the heck they're doing.
they
The
don't.
EMTs don't know what they're doing,
Nope.
and ignorance is dangerous
Yep.
in these cases. And I know this firsthand from my friend's little boy who passed away because the EMTs did not know how to take care of a trached kid.
Oh my
And
God, I can't even
so,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
so
that's
we're not going that route. And to be able to fight like that is hard, is to have to stand up to the nurse and be like, no, I'm not allowing this to happen, and then to have to fight it all the way up the chain to be like, okay, well, how do I bypass this? I'm the parent, I should
yeah.
be able to just say no, but now I got to get a letter from the pediatrician that allows me to bypass Banner, you know
Yep. Yeah.
hmm
And I want to make it clear when, as we're posting this, this is nothing against like providers, right? Like we are
no,
not like out here trying to like bash doctors and providers and things like that. But the reality for medical parents is, especially for these rare conditions, is there really is no scope yet, right? We experienced the same thing. We had to call ER when we were, and it was right after what had happened to Ben. So
Yeah.
Koa started to bleed, and I was like, we're not even messing with it.
They're just not equipped for
no,
vented patients,
no,
and they don't receive the proper training. But
no, they
no,
don't.
that's a
That's
different
another
topic.
thing. Yeah, that's another thing that we
But
have to.
You know,
attack.
like you
With the
said, because
training.
I felt that way before. When it comes to the health and safety of our child, I don't care about what your company policy says.
Yeah,
Like I'm not breaking any laws.
right.
You know, that's a company policy, and that's for you and your supervisor to deal with. This
Yep,
is what we're doing because this is what my kid needs.
right.
That's one thing that I think is a problem, and it is more of a problem in small rural communities. I think
Hmm.
is
Especially
that
here in
people
Nevada, where we're a
they
medical
don't
desert.
realize that their local hospital is not the best choice for every circumstance. You
Right,
know, like there's just stuff that I know you're a doctor, but you've never seen anything like this before. You
right,
know, people
Hmm.
right.
just have a hard time grasping that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Another thing that nobody tells folks like us, medical parents, is that like you might very well have to move. Joy, you
yeah,
have a very good support system. You have somewhere to stay in Reno. We
right.
had to relocate several times,
Yep.
and should we lose more providers due to this Medicaid debacle, and who knows what's going to happen with the healthcare system, back to
Mm-hmm.
that politics system in place,
Hmm.
we may have to relocate
Yeah,
again.
you know,
Because if we
if we
lose
Yeah,
start to
providers, we
lose
cannot stay
specialists in
here.
northern Nevada, we're
right.
I think folks could benefit from thinking about, right, as they're thinking about this whole journey, is like, where is the place that I can be that my kid's going to get the most comprehensive care and the
Hmm.
most knowledgeable care from folks that have seen kids like this consistently.
And that's another thing is trying to trying to get your kid transferred out when they need to be transferred out and making that call. You're generally the one that's gonna do it.
That's what we ran into when they denied COA surgery, and we're like, okay, we need a second opinion, that, and they were awesome trying to help us. But
Hmm.
getting that information to these other
yeah,
hospitals
they
was
could not
ridiculous
communicate.
because of the HIPAA laws. You know what I
Right.
mean? And all these different hospitals have all these different systems that they store medical information in. As you said, the wheel of the medical world turns very slowly. And I'm like,
Hmm.
we are wasting valuable time here
Yep.
for our son. He
Yep.
needs this surgery, and thank goodness that we had Dr. Carey in our corner, who was
Yeah.
able to, there was all these people that weren't responding. Some had denied us. And then in these fabulous groups that we're in, I saw his name, who had done a surgery. And I brought it up in a care conference. And Dr. Carey was like, I can't even believe I didn't think of him. And he was able to, with our consent, get in touch with him right away and bypass all of these things, where if it wasn't for his guidance, I don't know if they would have opened surgery up again for COA.
Yeah.
It is so hard to, and you're right, get that second opinion in that care. So I think it's important
Yeah.
for folks to
Yeah,
know where they're going to deliver, plan to be there for a really, really long time.
on a less serious note, uh, Joy, I have a question for you. Given that Ben is, so he's 7 years older than Koa.
Hmm.
How many times have you rearranged the furniture in Ben's room?
Well, since we've had it set up where it's at now, I haven't,
Oh,
but
okay.
we've switched rooms a couple times.
Mm,
We started out in one room in our house, and then we got a lift system put in through Care Chest. And so we had to put it in the other bedroom that was across from the bathroom so that we could trolley him across the hallway to the bathroom. So we lived in the living room while they were doing all this. And it took about 2 months, and then we moved into that our the room that he's in now, and we've been in there for a while. But it's small, it's cramped. We I don't know. It is what it is, but what about you guys? You rearranging all the time?
oh,
Oh my
not
gosh.
all the time. I think we've got a good system now. But it seems like every time we get a new piece of equipment, or something, it's like, oh, well, we got to make room for it.
Right.
And that was just one of the things that's like, how many times are you gonna, and maybe it's just me, but you know, you're gonna stand there and analyze the room and say, how can I make this, the best?
Yeah.
Like, how can I have a comfortable space to do trach cares and
Yeah.
Z-tube stuff, and
Yeah.
where am I going to put his medical equipment so everything reaches, like the feeding tubes and the circuits and all that.
Right.
How
Yeah,
much
because the
time it,
comfort of your cares is super important to
yeah,
save your back and to
having,
like,
the functional space
yeah,
to
we've
Yeah.
just
changed it
do
probably
stuff.
about 5 times
Yeah,
just
I
here
think
in
we're at
Reno.
5 times. Yeah,
Hmm.
4 or 5.
Now we have a cart so we can
Yeah,
transport him
the
throughout the
cart
house.
is super nice.
Yeah, all of
So
his stuff.
tell me about your guys' sleeping arrangements.
Oh, I love that you're
That
bringing
is,
that
yeah,
up.
that is one of the things we were going to talk about. We try in between living in Fallon and moving here to Reno, and even when we lived in Utah a little bit, we
And when we
tried
travel.
to, yeah, and when we traveling's a little different, but we tried to maintain a traditional married couples sleeping arrangement, being that Koa was either in the room with us and we were both in the same bed, or he's in the room across the hall or next to ours or whatever it is. And I think the conclusion that we came to is that, because Amber's a very light sleeper anyway, uh, if we're both in the same room and one of us gets up, we both get up. And so what we decided on, for the most part, is that we just sleep in separate beds.
Yeah.
And one of even if it's one of us is in the room with Koa or next to the room with Koa, and then someone else is getting, you know, good sleep. One of us will get interrupted sleep, and one of us will get good sleep.
Yeah.
And because otherwise we both just get bad sleep, and that can only go on for so long.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we alternate rooms, and sometimes we may sleep in the same bed. Um,
When we
but
travel, we do because
yeah,
usually if it's in the
limited,
Well,
but
you have
RV,
another
he's
bed
close enough.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
right next to you guys. Yeah. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
that's a good situation.
But yeah, on
Hmm.
a normal night for us is one of us is in our bedroom, and one of us is in Koa's room with him, sleeping on the sofa.
But more recently, we've been trying to implement one of the guest rooms as a
Yeah,
spot to sleep
there
because
is a
our back's
room.
been going out because we have them on a sectional.
Okay.
So that which is nice for his cares.
Yeah.
Um, but we also have a dog bed for him because now he's rolling, so he doesn't roll out of the off the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got him in
So
a big dog bed with side walls.
Okay.
It's a
works perfect.
Tempur-Pedic.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I think I saw that on one of your traveling videos. You
Yeah.
took it with you and had it on the bed in the hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
Yeah.
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 What about you guys? How do you guys manage the sleeping arrangement?
Yeah. So, um, at first he was in like a twin, they sent a twin adjustable bed, like a hospital bed home.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so he slept in that. And then I had another bed in the room with him, like another single bed, twin bed. But I didn't like that. And then I was in and out of bed all night long. And so
Hmm.
then I was like, okay, I'll sleep in the recliner next to the bed. And then, of course, it's hard on your neck, hard on your back. So I just started
Yeah.
sleeping in the bed with Ben
Hmm.
until he got too big. And then I bought a full size adjustable bed off of Amazon. And then we bought some of those rails, and my husband just drilled
Hmm.
them, drilled holes and adjust, so I have two rails so Ben can't roll out and it's against the wall.
Hmm.
So I'm the one who sleeps with him most of the time. Um, and Zach will take a weekend here and there or a night here and there, but for the most part, I'm the one that's sleeping, with Ben. We rarely get to sleep alone together. Um, at my parents' house, he sleeps next to me on the queen size bed, so I just make a little nest for him with some pillows, and so he doesn't roll off the bed, and he just sleeps right next to me, in the queen size bed that we have in the room that I stay in. And then my parents bought a cot. It's like a bunk bed cot
Oh,
to to and so it's high enough, and since it's a cot, he can't roll out of it. And so when he sleeps in their room, that's what he's on in their room. And then the bottom part of the bunk bed, all of his supplies and everything can go on. And then we have a like a hospital tray table that fits in so that the suction machine and everything can sit on top and not on the bed. But yeah, so as far as marital sleeping goes,
Yeah.
it
You have to
doesn't
plan. You
happen.
have to plan for it. Yeah, that's a special
Yeah,
occasion.
yep, yep.
yeah,
Everything's planned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
sex is
Oh,
planned. Sleeping arrangements are planned. Like that's how that folds nicely into how the relationships change. Not
right.
only like with your spouse, but also, I mean, with like friends and family too,
Yeah.
right? Like how have you noticed that some of your relationships have changed?
Well, it's very isolating.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that the people that you used to run around with and have coffee with or lunch with, or you know if you used to do hobbies like bowling or pool league, and you had friends that you meet up with weekly, or even going to church, and that all goes out the window. You don't run in the same circle anymore. Really, nobody runs in this circle unless and even us, even though we're right now we're in the same town, the likelihood of us actually getting together physically
Yeah.
is very low, just
Yeah.
because it's so hard to coordinate. And um, so yeah, friendships. I have kind of long distance, I guess, friendships with people. Some people do still stop by, but for the most part, I don't really have, you know, an outlet, I
Hmm.
guess. Um, our marriage has definitely taken a big hit just because we just don't get to spend a lot of time together. My husband's a workaholic, and so he's out working all the time, and so we're just kind of like ships passing. I
Hmm.
really admire you guys. You guys are what I call, penguin parents.
That's
And
cute. Tell me more. What does that mean?
well, penguins, so the mommy lays the egg, right? And then the daddy incubates it. So he sits on it while the mommy goes and fishes, and she gets all fat and fluffy, and
I've
then she
totally
comes
gotten
back.
fluffier.
Me too. Me too. And then she comes back and she takes care of the hatchling, while the daddy goes out for a while, and then he comes back, and so it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They just tag each other out, and
That's a very apt description.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
and that's kind of how it is with my parents when I'm at my parents' house. I call it penguin parenting here because there's always somebody who can jump in and do something so that the brunt of the load doesn't fall on just one person. When I'm
Hmm.
at home, the load is completely on my shoulders, especially if I don't have a nurse, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so, I'm lucky if I get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, and that's not like full on good sleep. I rarely
Yeah.
get into REM
It's
sleep.
interrupted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
like me
does take
last
a
night.
toll.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It
And
Yeah,
that's
definitely
you
one
just
does.
of
feel
the
like a mombi, just kind of,
a mombi. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
And that's,
term.
I think that the reason that I spend most nights with Koa, and Amber does a good job about giving me breaks when I get really tired, but is because of the military background. I I'm more used to it, and I'm better able to cope with operating on little to no sleep. I can stay up for. Amber thought I was. I think you thought that I used to be exaggerating when I'd say I can go 4 days without sleep. Like I know
Yeah.
that that's my limit is 4 days,
Mhm.
and I can actually do it and continue to operate at least at a minimum capacity of
Mhm.
that. But we
But
were
then you need to
we're
crash and recuperate.
yeah. Then it's a whole day of
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not super helpful.
Right.
But we were super fortunate that my career is mostly shift work,
Mhm.
and so I'm able to. Right now, it's I go to work at 4 in the morning and I come home at noon, and then Amber works at 1 and then works till 7 or so most days, and that's just how we do it. So, like you said, I get home, I take over, she goes to work. When she gets done, it's time for nighttime nebulized treatments and trach cares, and then it's off to bed.
Yeah.
So we're very much, like you said, ships passing by.
But
Yeah.
when we were in Fallon before we relocated, Parker had a different schedule, and it was
That was
hard.
hard.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
When
so
he was
hard.
commuting too,
He
yeah.
right?
was
Well,
commuting. He
I
was
was
driving
out
an
of the
hour to
house
Reno.
for, out of the house for probably 13 of, 13 hours,
Hmm.
because work is 8. It was an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. And then you need, 4 hours for sleep, 4 or 5 hours for sleep. So really, you're only home for 5 or 6 hours at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the brunt was falling on her,
Yeah.
and I'm sure she got completely depleted.
Overwhelmed. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was still, running the business and
Right.
working. And at that point, I
Trying
wasn't
to go to
working at home.
appointments.
I had an office in town, and that was a lot, and so
Yeah.
this is just being closer to the medical resources all the way around has really
Yeah.
Ease the
helped
burden. Yeah.
ease the burden and make me at least more mentally well. My mental health
Yeah.
is much better, I think, because I'm getting a
Yeah.
little more sleep. Um, again, it's not all falling on my shoulders.
Yeah. Well, Joy, I
Yeah.
mean, being an hour away or an hour and a half away from your appointments, it turns going to something as simple as a PT session. It's an all day event.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've really uh been fortunate to find neurorestorative as a resource, a good resource for us.
Hmm.
Um for me, I was pretty much at the end of my pitiful rope, and Robin had suggested neurorestorative, and she said that she'd, made friends with the new director and she trusted her and she felt like the facility was really good. And so I went and took a tour and I saw that it was clean, and that they have a low patient load. And so I did a trial run. Um, so this is just for respite, and kids on Medicaid can do respite there anytime. They make you do a minimum of 2 week stay at first, because it takes them 2 weeks to get to know your kid, really.
Hmm.
And you want them to get to know your kid with the little nuances and stuff we were talking
Hmm.
about.
Totally.
So I stayed there with him for the first 4 or 5 days and nights. They have private rooms with a couch, pull out couch that you can sleep on. And so I was really, really apprehensive of turning over the care to people I didn't know.
Hmm.
But I finally felt comfortable and I let go of the reins, and I stayed at my mom and dad's house for the next few days, and went and checked on him regularly. And then I finally went home. And when I got home, I thought, oh, I'm going to get all this stuff done. I'm going to go through all this stuff. I'm going to organize all this stuff. I'm going to get all my laundry done. I'm going to, kick ass. And I slept
I
for
was
like
just going to
Yeah.
3
hypothesize
days.
that's what
I
I didn't
happened.
do
slept and
any of it.
slept and slept
You
and slept
needed
and
it,
slept.
girl.
I did. I mean, I got up to pee and eat, and that was it. And I I was so freaking tired. And like at the end of it, and the 2 weeks went by so fast. And then I went and got him, and I felt renewed and refreshed and ready to go again. So now my goal is to put him in there once a quarter for the 2 weeks. And actually he's been in there a little more frequently with his surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
So after his back surgery, he did uh, recovery there, rehab,
Mm-hmm.
because they have PT they can do with him every day. They do OT, PT, speech with him every day. And so it's a good place for him to do rehab after his surgeries. And so I just had a respite where I booked myself 2 weeks away. I spent a week with a girlfriend of mine from high
Good for
school.
you.
Yeah. And then I spent the second week up in Tahoe with my husband. And so, that was good. It was really
Yes.
good. But yeah, you get to where you're just in the guilt. I mean, can we
Mm-hmm.
just talk about the guilt of leaving
Yes,
your kid with
please.
I
somebody
know.
else?
Let's do the fear, the guilt and
Oh,
fear.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It'll eat you up. It'll
Mm-hmm.
eat you up. You just feel like, this kid is my responsibility, and to put him off onto somebody else makes me feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Even to have my parents watch him, it makes me feel guilty because I'm like, I'm the one, he's my responsibility. And he's a big responsibility. Not anybody you can't just call in a babysitter to take care of your kid,
Nope.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and that responsibility is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you wouldn't want something life-threatening to happen on their watch, you
No.
know? So that's a scary thing too. And my mom, she's always like, "Oh, you guys should go to Hawaii, or you guys should go somewhere, and have a second honeymoon or whatever." I'm like, I can't go that far away. Even being at home and leaving him here in Reno gives me a
Mm-hmm.
little anxiety.
Hmm.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't really relax,
no.
no matter
Yeah.
where you're going, and it's just par for the course, I think. Joy, can you talk a little bit about how someone might be able to access that resource I mean, I know each state is different, but how would somebody in Nevada go about like getting neuro resources a care facility option?
Oh, yeah, you just contact them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll email you the packet to fill out. Um, you should go do a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you the number so that you can call the director, and she'll give you a tour. And then it doesn't take long to set it up, just a few days. Medicaid pays for everything.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're not in there for more than 30 days, then it won't disrupt their Social Security benefits or their Medicaid benefits. So you just got to make sure that they're out before the 30th day. Um, it does disrupt the nursing care, and like if you're getting services with one care, um, after like the 13th day, if they're in there more than 13 days, then they have to readmit them into the services, and that's kind of like more paperwork and more time consuming. But you know, it is what
Yeah.
it is, right?
Mm-hmm, totally. So do they have to have a certain diagnosis, a neural condition?
No, it's
Gotcha.
great. It really is great. It's a really good facility. I can't say enough about the people who work there, the nurses, the RTs, the CNAs are very loving and conscientious, and they get Ben up and make sure that he's out in the common area, interacting with the other kids every day. Like I said, they have the therapies, they bathe them, they do their laundry. You know, it's without that resource, girl, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, it's like 9 years of having a newborn is what it's like. It's a perpetual state of, just broken sleep and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, and it takes a toll.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It
for
takes a
sure.
toll after a while. And you
Yeah,
just feel like I don't know. I don't know if I can keep going.
right,
But,
right.
at least with that, you get a little break.
It's so important for us in our all around health, right? Our mental health and our physical health is that whole system is just so interconnected to be able to
Yeah,
have those breaks and to focus on our relationships because that isolation it can be rough,
Mhm.
right.
can exasperate all kinds of things, you know?
Oh yeah.
So I'm
Well,
glad.
and nobody really knows what you're going through unless they're
Mm-mm,
going through it or have gone through it. It's
correct.
not something just anybody can understand, and when you say, it's isolating, they don't understand what you mean, but you're just cut off,
Hmm.
and you can't participate like you want to because you don't want your kid to get sick,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You can't just
Hmm.
drag them along everywhere you want to take them because you don't want to expose them to stuff. Not only that, but it's hard work. I mean, just packing up to go to an appointment.
I never was like aware, I think, of all of the little nuances that even like maybe a hotel room doesn't have, or just space in general, that you need when you have a kiddo with disabilities. And then as they grow and they get bigger and bigger, you need more space and you need more
Yeah.
equipment to be able to kind of move them around.
Right.
So yeah, and the folks that are designing that stuff, I don't think have had, frontline experience with that type of stuff.
Oh
No,
yeah.
no, it's
So
obvious.
yeah,
Yeah, like just to open up Ben's ramp on our van, I got to have a specific parking space.
right.
And then you
Mhm.
realize how few are meant for a van and a ramp. I had to put big old signs on his van saying that we needed like 8 feet clearance on the passenger side just to get his ramp out. But yeah,
Nobody
if we
reads
go to
them, I'm
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
no, had that happen several times, and it's so frustrating. And
Hmm.
then I think about it, and also, oh, what really makes me mad is people who park in the handicap spots that don't have placards.
If you heard yourself in any of this, you are not alone and you are not broken. You're a human being navigating something extraordinarily difficult.
Next week, we're getting into stuff more practical, like insurance, Medicaid waivers, and how to fight for what your child really needs.
Bring your coffee. We're going to keep getting deep. Until then, remember, courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means showing up even when you are. I'm Amber,
And I'm Parker.
and this is Coffee and Courage, and that's Cola.